So we shall now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Kamalarasi, who is our Senior Consultant Ophthalmologist of the Eye Foundation Group of Hospitals based at Coimbatore. She's a superb surgical trainer and a great teacher to the postgraduates and the fellows who work with us. She would be presenting an interesting case. On to you, Tamil.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just a minute, ma'am.
Keep yourself loud. Huh?
Yeah.
Dr. Tamil just played. Yeah, it's just played. Yeah, it's moving.
It's playing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Tamil, the voice is not coming. You need to enable the share sound. Can you just stop for a minute?
Yeah, just a minute.
The voice is not there.
Just a
The
minute.
sound is not coming. Can you just stop for a minute?
Yeah.
Just click the share screen button once. At the bottom there is something called share sound. Just click on the share sound.
Oh.
Would you want Mr. Sunil to open your video?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sunil, can you open?
Good afternoon to all. Cataract surgery in pseudoexfoliation eyes can be very challenging. This is the right eye of a patient with hard cataract, pseudoexfoliation and small pupil. AC was very shallow uniformly throughout and biometry showed ACT of 1.35 mm. We planned for small incisional cataract surgery and explained the possibility for the need for an alternate IOL. The pupil was dilated only on the day of surgery since the AC was very shallow. I could see more than 4 clock hours of zonular dialysis nasally with anterior subluxation of the cataract. My plan was to remove the cataract atraumatically without damaging the corneal endothelium and plan an alternate IOL. After making the temporal sclerocorneal tunnel, further surgical steps and maneuvering of instruments inside the AC was extremely difficult because of the shallowness. I attempted to do rhexis and with much difficulty I could complete it. Care was taken throughout not to damage the iris or the corneal endothelium. Since the cataract was very hard, I prolapsed one pole out of the bag using bimanual technique. Once it is completely prolapsed out of the bag, I ensured to inject adequate viscoelastic below and then above the nucleus to protect the corneal endothelium. I confirmed the adequacy of the inner lip to accommodate the hard nucleus and delivered using a vectus. The nucleus was really hard. Once the nucleus was delivered, I cleared the anterior chamber of the loose cortical matter and then I could see the bag was crumpled. I decided to remove the bag. I felt iris fixation is a good option and it will provide good long-term outcome. After removing the bag, I noticed minimal vitreous disturbance and I decided to do an anterior vitrectomy. A thorough anterior vitrectomy was done. After completing it, the iris clip IOL is introduced into the anterior chamber and the one haptic is taken behind the iris. The IOL is slightly lifted in order to appreciate the contour of the claw and a gentle pressure is applied on the slotted center of the haptic using a spatula. The same maneuver is repeated on the other side. I confirm the IOL enclavation and the viscoelastic is removed completely. I sutured the tunnel and intracameral antibiotic was given. Side ports were hydrated. Post-operatively, the patient had an uncorrected visual acuity of 615 and the best corrected visual acuity of 6.6. This is another patient with severe phacodonosis and pseudoexfoliation and deep anterior chamber. In such cases, examining the patient in supine position is indicated to plan the surgical approach, whether anterior or pars plana. Rarely, the cataract may dislocate posteriorly and better managed with pars plana approach. The cataract was removed through a temporal sclerocorneal tunnel and the iris clip IOL was enclaved to the mid-peripheral iris as in the previous case. The tunnel was sutured. This is the postoperative picture. The take-home pearls are: pre-op exploration is really very important. Timing of cataract surgery is critical. Asymmetry of the anterior chamber depth indicates zonular weakness. Address small pupil and never do small rhexis. Ensure to protect the existing zonules and the endothelia. The APEX study, that is the Aravind pseudoexfoliation study, rules out the indication of CTR in uncomplicated cases of PXF without zonular weakness. Ovalization of the previous round rhexis indicate zonular weakness. The degree of zonulopathy and patient's age decide whether we need a standard or a modified CTR. The APEX study again indicates minimal need for altering an implant choice in uncomplicated PXF cases. Single-piece IOL is preferred for gentle hand folding and 3-piece IOL is preferred for rigid haptics. And it can be placed in sulcus with optic capture to prevent pseudophacodonosis. Post-op, look for early capsular phimosis and treat it with YAG relaxing anterior capsulotomies. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamil. That was so complete. I'm actually stumped about what questions to ask. So let me try, and I'll expect Dr. Deepak and Dr. Saurabh and Dr. Debashish to bother you some more. So one thing is that, do you think in your first case, had you used capsular hooks, you could have salvaged the capsular bag? Would that have?
Actually, the patient had a severe PXF and I could see that anterior subluxation nasally. So while doing rhexis only, it was very difficult and it was like disproportionate. So I thought salvaging the bag would have been really difficult in that case.
Now, one other important question is, do you believe that you have to alter the size of the incision if it's a more subluxated cataract? Because my SIC's experience is not much. So.
No, the size of incision is truly dependent upon the how we are going to deliver the cataract and the grade of cataract. If you're going to bisect the nucleus or use a loop and the incision size, we can reduce it. But if you're going to deliver it as such, then we have to make sure that the inner lip is adequate for that cataract to be delivered atraumatically.
Now, you
the other thing, Chitra.
The last question I have is to the speakers here. Would you all think of suggesting CTR to be used regularly for a premium IOL or a toric IOL case? Or would you use it only if it is an obvious subluxation is there?
Yeah, Chitra, to answer your question, as I told you, the economics play a big role here. And if the patient is for a PMMA lens, one thing that in Tamil's case, I would say that it was the disproportion of the nucleus to the rhexis. Though she did it very carefully and it was a very big rhexis, yet it was the bulkiness and the entire bigness of the back fullness of the nucleus that extended maybe the whatever zonules were there. So essentially the other thing is an envelope capsulotomy or even a can opener capsulotomy. So where you let the capsule be free, I mean the entire capsular bag being free, and just place the lens in the sulcus. And of course, the only thing that you need to do is do a very careful cortical cleanup, because you don't pull the tanks. So that's another quick way of solving these complicated cases. The other one is, of course, the way Deepak did, where you take absolute precautions that nothing goes wrong, in the sense that, and of course, we have so many other bailouts, the way the Irish claw lenses, the scleral fixated externalized, the glue diodes. So there are, even if the capsule goes, there are so many other ways to put in a lens. So this quicker bailout is that, but it all depends on how you approach a particular case, depending upon what the patient is willing to pay.
Dr. Parikshit, you want to say something?
I would not use a CTR in every this. Only if the subluxation is more than 3 clock hours would I think of putting in a CTR. Otherwise, no.
Just a point here, ma'am. Just because there has been a paradigm shift in the way we are dealing with these subluxated or loose zonules in elderly patients.
Yeah.
I think what Dr. Tamil showed was, more of us are now using iris claw lenses.
Yeah.
This was not so much talked about 4 or 5 years back. So in these elderly patients, now I'm not going blue lenses or scleral fixated lenses in these eyes. I'm going on just like she did, iris claw lenses, because it's the ease of use, the swiftness of the surgery, and it's very traumatic.
Yes.
Just wanted to ask a question. My experience is limited. I've been using for maybe 2-3 years, that's all. Have you noticed any difference in the amount of cystoid macular edema in these cases over a large period of time? See, maybe about more than 50 cases.
We do a very good number of iris clip lenses whenever a secondary IOL has to be placed. And I believe that whatever CME is because of how complicated the primary surgery was. In a neat, complete, regular case, iris clip lens gets fixed in so miraculously and fast that there is no CME at all.
So in my study, which I had found out, wherever we have used the secondary as a secondary lens, where the eye is quiet and everything is settled, the incidence of CME was almost nil. But in a case where we use it as a primary device in a first complicated procedure intraoperatively, we have incidence of CME, but I can't attribute it to the procedure or to the lens. I can't sure. But definitely there has been paradigm shift now. More of us are doing to the iris claw lenses than the time-consuming scleral fixated lenses. That has been a clear shift. Dr. Ravindra sir is here, who has had immense experience, and we have learned a lot from him.
Yes.
He has been a great proponent of using these lenses for many years now.
Yes, Dr. Ravindra, can you tell us?
I would like to congratulate Tamilarsi for excellent surgery.
Yeah.
Well, the only 2 points I would like to comment is she started Rexis from the dehiscent area. So that pulls the dehiscent area, and I would like to start the Rexis from an area which is far away. As Dr. Deepak said, the Utrata forceps gives much better control on the Rexis tear when compared to cystotome in cases. You can start with cystotome, but then you start in a case in an area where you're not going to pull the zonules. That's one. Second is I would never put the wire vectis into the capsular bag till the nucleus is completely come out of it. So the mechanics, if you can imagine the capsular bag, and if you want to put it there, there'll be a lot of stress and stretch on the zonular bag. So in both the cases, I think you put the wire vectis, when the half of the nucleus was still inside. That's I would not approve. And what Deepak did is he enlarged the Rexis. That's probably the best way to handle it. So make a very large Rexis. What does Rexis do? There is no additional tear of the zonules. In this case, you could have easily managed to put a lens inside the capsular bag without losing the capsular bag. It's a possibility in SICS. So because there are no extraneous forces playing around in that area. About the iris claw lens retrofixed, I think that's a boon for so many cases. And we recently analyzed after the dialogue. We analyzed our own cases. Done about 15 years. Last 15 years, I've been doing retro iris claw lenses. There's not one case of the lens induced or the causative factor being the surgery. There's not one case of CME. There's no CME at all. So it's a false saying that retro iris lenses are turbulent postoperatively and that causes CME. CME causing mechanisms are totally different. So the lens is not the cause.
Thank you. I think we have 3 more speakers, so we should. Okay, yes.
Just one point regarding the progressive nature of these zonulopathies, like particularly PXF. We see a lot of PXF patients, and though we can manage, like Dr. Deepak showed in his case, that we can manage with a lens in either in the sulcus or in the back. What we see over a period of time, after 4 or 5 years, many of these patients come back with subluxated IOLs. So I think nowadays, many surgeons like Dr. Tamilrasi has rightly shown has shifted to either iris claw or SFIL. So I feel if you want to put a lens in the bag, you fix the bag on both sides, because I have done this mistake. I fixed the bag on one side. After 4 years, it doesn't happen immediately. And of course, these patients are old. So if they live for next 4 years, they will come back with subluxations. So you have to either fix the bag on both sides, or you go ahead with Iris Claw or SFIL. So Iris Claw is, I think, wonderful tool, and we have all learned from Dr. Ravindra's videos. He does it beautifully, and it's I had also that inhibition that we are attaching something to iris which is moving, but I think it does wonderful job. I think that is the lens to go for in such cases.
Yes.